Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And as you can see, the Z3 is out of the shop. We finished the rebuild of the rear axle and the suspension. And in the last episode of the Z3, we still had to install the muffler system and the heat shield, and also we had still to bleed the brakes. So meanwhile I have done all this work, and I didn't bother making a video of that because everybody knows how to bleed brakes. And maybe I make a separate video on all that together. So now we can actually take it for a test spin. Although it's already dark outside, but it doesn't really matter. So let's go and see what it does. Alright, so let's go. Now I can tell already when I'm taking off, it feels quite good. Now this is a cobblestone that makes a bit of noise, but let's see what it does if we get to some higher speed, because I don't even know if the diff will make noise or not. It might actually, we'll see. But this works quite good, I have to say. I don't feel any more clunking or anything like that. There's not a lot of play in the back anymore. Before it was awful, the play we had, but now it just goes very smoothly. Very stable and solid on the road. But I gotta watch out because there's a speed camera a little bit further down. But as you can hear, the shifting goes well, no more clunking sound, and actually the diff doesn't make any sound. I'm gonna speed up a bit on the way back. I'm gonna do about 120 clicks an hour and listen to the diff in the back if it's gonna sing or not. Sometimes they do sing. I hope it doesn't. So now let's listen to the diff. Sound on the diff. Nothing is shaking, no vibrations. So this is good. Now I can hear a little bit of sound when I let the throttle go. Not a lot though. I can hear it's coming from the back, but I think it's kind of normal. Alright. I can turn on that light again. So we're back from our test ride, and all I can say is that the clunking sound is gone. The car feels good, it feels stiff. The gearbox works as it should, and yeah, basically it's a complete different car. I know it took a lot of effort and time to get it to that stage, but it's certainly worthwhile doing it. We'll also have a fast replay of all the work that we have done from the moment we detected the clunking sound to the final finished product. And in this video, I'm going to take you through all the possible causes that can create the clunking sound. You have to remove the exhaust and the heat shield. Now once the muffler has been removed, you can now remove the heat shield. So with the exhaust removed and the heat shield removed, we now have a good visibility on the drive shaft. Here is that flex disc, so it can move up and down. And then at the end, you got your differential. Cross member here is actually broken off, so the whole support of the differential is a bit loose, and that can cause clunking. So the first test for me is move those two rear wheels at the same time, forward or backward. It's not moving a lot, but you can hear the sound. And for that I'm going to try to move the shaft up and down and see what happens. We have the clunking sound, and maybe I can look underneath and see. differential is mounted with 4 bolts onto the rear axle, which is connecting the diff actually to the body of the car itself. And this is the half shaft or the prop shaft, which is connecting to the differential. There is another one on the other side going to the right hand wheel. So these are the 4 bolts that are holding the differential to the rear axle. The first thing that I recommend that you disconnect are the 4 nuts. So if you disconnect the prop shafts, do support them, don't let them hang down. So you don't need to undo this one. I did already before, but that's not necessary to remove the differential. This one is good for 500 kilograms, and it's a really good help. Let it come down and jiggle it out of its position. Jerk on it. It's a little bit tough. You have to do it with a short push. If you look in the cover, you see this distinct line here. That's how high the oil level was for a long time in this car. The little blades that you see here is nothing more than the speed detections. And backlash is actually the play that you can see here, or feel. 0.114 on this diff. Hey guys, I just got back picking up this part for the Z3, and it can cause a lot of clunking. So all by all, this is looking real nice and real good. We also included an improvement by having studs instead of bolts. I want to prevent more rust on this because I want to preserve this car. So this is where the rear axle mounts to the actually body of the car, and there are bushes in here and they are a bit worn out on this car, and in fact I had a remark from the MOT. And we also have another reason why we want to take the rear suspension arms out. This is where the rear suspension arm is connected to the rear axle on the Z3. And we can actually take it out. And this one feels quite alright actually. So this prop shaft is still a usable prop shaft. But now it's open. But on this one, it works very smoothly. There we go. Brakes are not a lot of fun to work on. Is inside here, there's this little pin. You can just push that out. So you need a very small little punch to punch that out, because you can't really pull it out. And there we go. Now we can pull it out. We'll take it out later. So let's clip that out. There we go. Let's see. And it's going to come off. It is completely disconnected. And do one bolt up. Let's see. And here it is. But it's coming out. Yeah, it came loose. Sorry guys that my hand was in the way, but that was a tough one to get undone. And now it's time for this big bolt, and hopefully that comes loose. Okay, so let's lower it a bit more. And now I can just take it from underneath. Pretty neat replacements for them. They are the original brand. I'm sure we can almost push out that middle ring. It's a piece of wood. Let's see if we can push it out. See how that comes out. And it falls out in the bottom. And you didn't have to use excessive force. And I don't think there is a good way. There's only different ways. Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And in this episode we're going to continue building on the Z3 suspension. So one of the main things we're going to clean up is actually these brackets here that are holding the gas tank. The torsion bar, well, we're going to take this one out and get these rubbers replaced and the metal parts blasted and repainted. Sealant for the seams, you know, this tends to get loose over time. I don't think we can even blast this anymore. So I want to have that kind of a curve. I can see I need to bend it a little bit more. All right. Yeah, we'll see what we're going to do. Most likely I'm going to repaint the torsion bar, and then we'll be fitting these new parts that I have right here. I'm going to repaint all this now. And that elastic coat is what we call an anti-gravel coat or rust, because it's not going to help. You have to have a good surface to do that.
And I'm actually painting with this baby gun at about 1 bar.
And now it can dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll start fitting the rear axle and the suspension. The bush will go on the other side, and remember that the bush, the white side, has to face the outside. So this is fitting quite nice. You'll find an edge over here, and that's the one that should lean against the side of the axle, which is a bit bent outwards. Then we position it right where we have these indents, remember? So now we can release all this and we are done. So one bush is in, so now let's do the other one, and then we'll mount the axle. I don't like to work hard if I don't have to. That's one. All right. I need to have it in the right spot. And then we do all the other bolts at the end. And I just jacked it up so that the 4 bolts were fitting into the housing of the rear axle. I put it to torque. Because otherwise you cannot. Is clean, especially the splines, because you will have to push that prop shaft in there. You need to try to align the splines. There we go. That's some torque. And that shouldn't be all that difficult. We're just going to try to align it. That's one. And I just sprayed these clamps blue. Don't know why, I just fancy that color sometimes. So that little part here, this is the linkage that connects the stabilization bar to the suspension arm. And the brakes is a combination of brake shoes, which is the manual brake, which is sitting in here, and brake pads. So it is always good to position the wheel hub so you can put an Allen key through it against this metal block here. It's a bit of pushing, but you get there at the end. Now, if you're fitting this adjustment nut, then make sure it's all the way recessed. And to do so, I'm using a little hook to pull that spring towards the opening and see if the disc is fitting or not. And now I can still move it, but it's a bit more difficult to take it off because the drum has inside a little bit of wear and tear. Now let's see if we can get to this without being in the way. You don't want this to leak, so you want to make sure this is tight enough, but not too tight. So I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye.